Welcome to Go Gardening. My name is Clay Cawthorn, and today we're going to show you around my garden. I inherited this garden about 8 years ago, and we're slowly transitioning some of the plant material to native. And so anyway, just want to show you what we're doing. Hi, I want to talk a little bit about this portion of my garden. It's probably had the most changes and introduced the highest number of native plants. We have catmint, gaura, black and blue salvia, blackfoot daisy, and Maynite sage. Anyway, all these are native plants. They're water. They don't need a lot of water or fertilizer to thrive, and they're a lot easier on the environment and lessen our water usage in the landscape. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the structure. Not only did we introduce native plants to this corner of the garden, but if you notice, we have the lower plants in front that spread out, and then we step up to the gauras and the Maynite sage, and then the backdrop, we have the taller plants, the black and blue salvia. We actually have the Turk's cap, which frames the backdrop. This provides nice framing and a backdrop for the bird bath that we have in the center. All these elements together kind of frame this composition. So you have the different shapes, colors, heights, and all of them work together to form one good composition. Okay, I also want to talk about the size of the flagstones you choose. These flagstones look pretty small because of how the plant material is growing over them. In a lot of English gardens, if you look at the margins around the pass, the plant material is growing over the stone, so you want to make sure that you choose something large enough that won't just disappear when your plants start growing into them. Okay, and I also want to talk about these creeping plants. They grow over if you notice, they grow over the edges of your walks and stepstones. And this softens the effect of the hardscape, and it also kind of locks this composition together. So anyway, whether you want to dive into this yourself or hire a professional, at least you have some knowledge now of what to look for someone designing and building something like this in your own yard. Here's a little side story from my garden. These plants are bearded iris, and the descendants of these were originally planted by my great-grandmother at our ranch out in West Texas. And when the ranch was sold, I grabbed a bucket and threw some in there, and wherever we've moved since then, they've traveled with me. So anyway, it's a short plant. It's located to the front of this section of the garden for a reason, so that it can step up from here. And in the spring, you have a gorgeous purple bloom. I want to talk about how I garden. And I garden purely organically. I use organic fertilizers, which are plant-based and animal-based. They're not synthetically manufactured, and I'll tell you why. Some of the main reasons are that the organic fertilizers not only feed the plants, but they feed the soil. And within the soil is a microbiome which breaks down nutrients for plants, which will do a lot better job feeding your plants, where a synthetic fertilizer feeds the plants, but they're usually salt-based, and it's really bad for the microbiome of the soil. I also use native compost, and that's also organically derived. And if you look at my garden, everything is incredibly healthy, and you can garden, I think, in a better, more sustaining way using organic products than you can using manufactured synthetic. So I want to give you three, I guess, basic principles for good gardening and design. I think use of native plants, and as you've seen earlier in this segment, how we use the plants in different heights, colors, textures to enhance the composition of your garden. I think the practice of organic gardening is very important, not only for our environment, but also for the health of the plants and sustainability. And lastly, the use of native plants encourages less water usage, which, you know, in the future is going to be a big deal, and it's already a big deal to plant sustainable gardens that use less water. Thank you for visiting my garden.
So, how does enjoying the many beautiful parks and natural areas located in the Trinity Glen Rose Groundwater Conservation District help protect the clean water stored in the Trinity Aquifer? You can learn more at trinityglenrose.com/pollution prevention.
So you walk into a Lowe's or some other big box store and you look on the shelves and you see all these pieces of watering equipment. Which one do you use? Welcome to Go Gardening. My name is Mark Peterson, and today we're going to be talking about all these pieces of watering equipment and what are the advantages and disadvantages of each. Behind me is an in-ground watering system. It's very common. It's very convenient. You can even run it by your phone. However, it produces a lot of water in a short period of time. It's not very efficient. And the question is not if it will fail, but when. Because the in-ground system tends to apply a lot of water in a short period of time, we don't have to run it for very long. I calculated in the past that it probably is about 20 to 25 minutes you should run it, no more than that, even in the summertime. Behind me is an oscillating sprinkler. It's a great sprinkler. You can move it around, it's very easy to do, but you're going to lose a lot of water to evaporation. Anywhere from a third to half of the water you put out can be lost to evaporation because of the spray height and also the fine droplets that occur with this particular sprinkler device. So make sure that you understand that, and then try to avoid those situations, particularly if it's windy out. Now, the run time on this particular sprinkler is about 35 to 40 minutes. It's very similar to an in-ground rotor system, which is about the same. And the reason why it takes a little bit longer than the spray is that it's moving back and forth, so it's only covering the area for a short period of time. That's why we have to run it a little bit longer to get the same amount of water that a in-ground spray head would do. Ah, there's a familiar sound. This is called an impact sprinkler. It is one of the older ones that we can find. It's actually very good. It covers a large area. The droplets are big and uniform, so there's less evaporation going on. The one problem it's hard to maneuver after you water one place. You got to physically pick it up and physically move it and stick it in the ground to another location. But it's great. We're going to look at somewhere between 30 and 35 minutes for this particular piece of work. This is one of my favorite watering devices. This is called a turret, or there's another one with 3 arms. These produce nice, even droplets. Therefore, they're not going to have high evaporation rate. And what I really like, you can adjust the head, the amount of distance between the sprays by maneuvering at the faucet and increase the volume that way and increase the area it covers. It's also great when you're sitting outside in the morning or afternoon and you can just pull the device into a new location. Runtime for this is going to be somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes on that for each location. But this is my absolute favorite watering method and piece of equipment. This is a wand, or it can be a hose-end sprayer. Notice the nice, easy droplets. You won't have a lot of evaporation. You can use this 24/7, anytime, any day, depending on your the regulations of your municipality. You can control it by using the shutoff valve or the amount of water coming out at the faucet. But the very best reason to use a wand or sprayer is this. You know the real reason I like to use the wand? It's so relaxing. I can sit in a chair, drink a cold beverage, and you can use a wand anytime or any day. In fact, the best time to water is either at dusk or at dawn. Dusk, the plants really want the water. They've been managing water all day. And at dawn is high humidity, low wind, hardly any evaporation. So you can use either one. I prefer sitting back and watering at dusk. Today we talked about a lot of different equipment on how to water your landscape. Each one is okay. There are lots of different advantages and disadvantages for each one, but please try to remember those in order to conserve water. In fact, we all need to conserve water. Thank you for watching Go Gardening. Until the next time, get out there and garden.
Litter goes with the flow. Join the San Antonio River Authority in protecting area creeks and the river. Don't let litter trash your river. Let's all be river proud.
Hello, welcome to Go Gardening. I'm Rachel Zievinski. We're here in the Highland Park neighborhood with my neighbor, Jack Elder, on Caton Avenue. We're here to look at today, what does a sustainable landscape look like over a long period of time? Jack developed this landscape 20 years ago, and in fact I met him in 2003 when I was looking for other people who had plants in their front yard to apply to be on the GVST Home Xeriscape Garden Tour. And we were on the tour in 2004. So thank you for inviting us to your yard today, Jack.
You're very welcome. It's good to have you here, and I'm anxious to show you what's happened over the last 20 years. Some of the things that got us going was the substantial rainfall we had in 1998 and also in 2002, it became clear that many more rains like that might possibly just sweep my house away because it's built on pier and beam. And so I looked at ways to solve that problem and came up with the swale and berm technique. And I should mention that my involvement with all of this came about because of you and the experts at Native Plant Society, which have been helpful, really helpful over the last several decades.
Well, you know, Jack, it really came about because you had planted things in your front yard. And when I was looking for people to apply with me to be on the garden tour at the time, the requirement was you had to have a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 6 people in the same neighborhood, and they had to have low water use. And when I looked at all 5,000 houses in the Highland Park area, drove by every one of them, there were only 6 that had things planted in their front yard at the time. And one of the people I spoke with immediately told me that his water use was just simply too high to even qualify. So I'm glad that the other 5 of you agreed to go on that venture with me, but it was because you already had that idea and you were courageous enough to plant your yard for sustainability and implement what you believed that caused me to stop at your house.
Well, maybe I was just a cheapskate. I didn't like paying my water bill or fertilizer or any other. It all worked out. I think the birds are happy. I have the martins here, just starting to fledge, and the butterflies. I just love to sit out on my back deck and watch all the animals just have free reign and have plenty of food to eat.
So Jack, you mentioned that you enjoy the birds and the butterflies and being in your yard. Did you plant the yard for them?
I planted the yard based on recommendations from the Native Plant Society and plants that I was given, and by SAWS and by members of the organization. So it's kind of a natural evolution of getting involved with the group, and then the group making suggestions as to what might grow best. And then the nice thing about natives is many of them are perennials. They will just drop their seed, and then you're all set for the next year and beyond that. So this has been a very low-cost endeavor. My rain barrels are probably the biggest expense that I had. But other than that, I've been very happy with the results of the birds, the butterflies, the bees, the lizards, making themselves at home here. I wanted the plants to be basically self-sustaining, and it's been great for the kids, and the animals love it. It's just a happy place for birds, for me, for the trees, and for the animals.
Yeah, I see you have a space between your house and your vegetable garden and your pollinator garden and your work area over here.
Yes.
Is that for the grandchildren?
Yes, yes. They come in, they pick blackberries and plums and tomatoes and spinach, and so depending on the season.
And you mentioned not using a lot of water. What is your monthly water usage?
The water bill is saying that my water usage was 748 gallons, which is 100 cubic feet.
Okay.
So it's around 700 gallons, and I've been challenged by other water misers to bring it even lower, but that works out to about 25 gallons a day, which is a lot if you consider. So I think generally, as a population in San Antonio, we can cut back on our water usage without feeling deprived.
So you use about 25 gallons a day of potable water, and then you also use your rainwater that you harvest?
Yes, I don't use any city water for my plants at all. And with the 10, 55 gallon barrels I have, that gets you through most any situation, except for an extreme drought. But just an inch of rain will fill the barrels because it comes off the roof. And
so you don't use any water coming from SAWS outside for irrigation?
No.
Okay. So Jack, I don't think that your neighbors are the only ones who appreciate what you've done, because I noticed that The Texas House of Representatives issued you a certificate of achievement for being a leader in water conservation and for being on the Home Xeriscape Garden Tour in 2004 with a docent, Sir Oliver Smith from GVST here in your yard, opening your yard to the community and showing what you've done.
Yes, and that certificate is signed by my good friend Robert Puente.
Yes, he was the chair of the State Natural Resources Committee at the time, and now is the CEO of SAWS too.
Yes.
So Jack, just to wrap up, we really appreciate you opening your house here, and not only for your courage and your leadership in water conservation and sustainable living and building a better future for everyone in the community, but just for welcoming us to your yard today.
You're very welcome. I want to thank you for showing up and for your continued work, and let's keep planting natives.